Hello my friends, this is CJ Thomas. Would You Eat It Wednesday is back. We are talking about beans today. Beans, would you eat it? Beans, I don't know. This one is probably one of the most hotly debated, food groups that is out there, among these different health communities. You've got vegan communities who definitely look to beans as a good protein source because they can't have any animal sources of protein. So you've got the ketogenic community, not very hip on beans in general. You've got the paleo community, which is definitely no beans. They, for the most part, are very anti-bean. And you've got others like Dr. Furman who say everybody should be eating beans every day. So there's all sides of the spectrum here, okay? You've got people saying definitely eat beans. You've got people saying definitely stay away from beans. So what's the real answer here, okay? So let's go over some of the facts. We'll talk about both camps. So I'll try and be as unbiased as I can here and give you my recommendation at the end, okay? So beans in general, let's start with the good. So we've got studies that show that beans improve heart health, okay? So heart health, they can protect against cancer. Two big points right here, noticing that heart health and cancer are two of the most common things that take us out in society right now, okay? So they're also high in fiber, which is very beneficial. They improve digestion, which is maybe counterintuitive because most people think of beans, they think of beans, the more you eat, the more they make you fart. There's a more poetic version of that. The indigestible fruit, the more you eat, the more you toot, I think is how it goes. Anyway, okay, so according to some studies, it actually improves digestion. You've got boost of energy, you've got stabilization of blood sugar, which is good. Beans are loaded with vitamins and minerals, so you've got lots of nutrients in beans. You've got high protein, the coveted protein. Everybody's looking for good sources of protein. This is one place where you can find protein, and especially a plant-based protein in quantifiable amounts, and can help with weight loss. So there are studies showing that beans can actually help you slim down and help you stay in shape. So this is something that'll definitely get some people's ears perking up. Obviously we're thinking about losing fat, we're talking about staying in shape. However, there are some negatives to beans as well, okay? So let's talk about lectins. Lectins is one of the reasons that, paleo and these other communities say you definitely should not eat beans. So they've got their two things, lectins and phytic acid, okay? So these are two things, forgetting about all the protein, forgetting about all the nutrients that are in beans, we call these anti-nutrients. You might be thinking to yourself, what's an anti-nutrient? I know what nutrients are. They are nutrition. They are good for your body. Your body breaks that down, uses that stuff to build new cells, helps with digestion, all this good stuff. So an anti-nutrient is doing some of the opposite of that stuff, okay? So lectins, for instance, are causing disruption in digestion, all right? So in large amounts, they can cause disruptions in your digestion. They become inflammatory in your body, and we know that inflammation is the cause of a lot of disease that we experience. So inflammation, anything that ends in itis, arthritis, that kind of stuff, that's coming from inflammation. So this is stuff that we want to avoid if possible, but how many lectins does it take for this to become a problem and outweigh, the nutrients that we were talking and the, good effects that we were talking about before, okay? So lectins, we know that can be problematic. Phytic acid being the second thing that people will tell you, you gotta avoid the lectins, you gotta avoid the phytic acid. And there's definitely a lot of studies showing that this might be the case. Let's talk about phytic acid for a second here. Phytic acid will actually bind to minerals. So this is something you want to watch out for. A lot of us aren't getting enough minerals already, so it will bind to something like magnesium. Most people in our society are magnesium deficient. It'll bind to calcium, it'll bind to zinc. These are minerals that your body needs. So if you're already deficient and then you're putting beans in your body which have phytic acid in there and it's binding to these minerals, now you're more mineral deficient than you may have been already, okay? So these are a couple things, legitimate concerns certainly, okay? Anti-nutrients, the phytates, the lectins, phytic acid. This is something that we want to be aware of. However, that all being said, phytic acid, there's another side to this coin right here. Got dogs, got chickens, got everything in the background here in Dogtown. Take it easy, it's gonna be all right. So we're talking about phytic acid. There are some good effects, okay? This can be anti-cancerous in moderate amounts, okay? This is also something where it will reduce iron absorption for some people. So we talked about it binding to minerals. If you've got too much iron in your system, that can actually be helpful in some cases, okay? So, you know, there's a little balance here, okay? So maybe it's not that we need to throw beans out altogether. Maybe it's the way that beans are being consumed, the way that beans are being put on the market, and the way that we are preparing beans that could be the issue. So let's talk about that for a little bit, okay? Most people think of beans, they're thinking probably the Bush's baked beans, you know, the canned stuff that you buy on the shelf, and you know, it's got additives, it's got nasty stuff, it's got all this other stuff. So that is not necessarily good. Another thing that really I don't get is raw beans, okay? So raw beans, if you were buying them from the store, you're obviously going to cook those, right? However, a lot of times they do these studies based on raw beans and your reaction to eating raw beans. Who the heck eats a raw bean anyway, okay? So this is a little confusing to me. Why they would, I don't know who's crunching on beans, you know? Maybe that's a thing somewhere, but here's how beans are supposed to be prepared. Let's cut to the chase here, okay? Beans are supposed to be soaked and they are supposed to be sprouted. If you do those two things to beans, those basically eliminate the two anti-nutrients that we were talking about, the phytic acid and the lectins. Those two things, those were the big concerns. That's what everybody's raving about. You gotta watch out for the lectins. You gotta watch out for the phytic acid. If you soak your beans overnight, let them sit in water. They've got time for them to soak in that water, start to open up. You drain the water out after 8 to 12 hours. Then you let them sit there and sprout. So you give them another 12 to 24 hours to let them sprout. And you'll know they've sprouted when you see a little sprout, okay? So that's how you know, okay? So they take time to soak and to sprout. And you might be wondering, why do they have these anti-nutrients to start with? Well, it's been brought to my attention that plants are trying to protect themselves. They're not, a plant doesn't think it's here to be eaten. A plant thinks it's here to propagate and reproduce, okay? So it's trying to protect itself against predators and against things that are going to eat it. So it'll use those things as a defense mechanism against bugs and insects and that kind of stuff. But if we get it in our system, then that can be disruptive to our little gut bacteria as well, okay? So we neutralize that, we humans, through ancient cultures have figured out sprouting, we have figured out soaking processes, because this is how we find beans in a way that it's going to be nutritious for us, neutralize those anti-nutrients that we were talking about, and, you know, in a lot of cases it can actually eliminate the gas problem that a lot of people experience with beans. So that's the way you do it the right way. You find an organic bag of beans, you soak it overnight, you sprout the beans, which is just taking the water out, rinsing it off, and letting it sit in the open air or in a colander or something like that. Maybe cover it up so dust and that kind of stuff doesn't get on it, and boom, then it's ready for cooking, okay? So this is the reason probably most people are telling you not to eat beans, because there is a little of a process to it, okay? So to do it right, you have to soak, you have to sprout, you have to cook, and then you've got a healthy, nutritious, you know, subject matter here, okay? So that's how beans can be very good for you. If you're not willing to go through that process, I would say maybe you do want to shy away from beans. And you probably don't want to overdo it anyway, but like I said, this is going to neutralize the bad effects if you do it the right way. So if you buy your own beans, you buy them organic, you do that process I was just talking about, yes, beans can be very good for you, but I know most people won't want to do that whole process, so I'll give you one other way. If you go to the store and find Eden Organic, this is one brand that I know of that actually will do the soaking and sprouting process. So they say, you know, you can't, how much can you trust any company nowadays? But that is actually what's on their label. They actually take the time to soak, they actually take the time to sprout, and they make those beans available in a can that is BPA free, which is another plus, and that's about as good as you can do without going through the process yourself. So Eden Organic beans, that is an excellent choice for you if you don't want to go through the hassle. But you know, it's interesting to me that we as a society are getting more and more away from the way we used to prepare food and this kind of stuff. So we've turned away from soaking and sprouting and the way grandma and great-grandma, you know, used to prepare food. All this stuff is being thrown to the wayside. We know what we're doing now. We've got lean cuisine. We can just pop it in the microwave. It was prepared, it was processed for me. I didn't have to think about it. I don't have to do anything with it. But that's not the way health was ever really meant to be, I don't think. So yes, it might take a little work to get a good bean, to get a nutritious bean, but it is available to you, okay? So all this time, you know, we're talking about foods a lot of times that we have to eliminate for the diet. Why eliminate another food group, beans? This is a very nutritious, dense diet, food that can actually help you slim down, can help you get healthier, can have a lot of benefits, anti-cancer, heart health benefits, all these good things are available to you if you're just willing to do a little soaking and sprouting. Put them in the crock pot. You don't have to think about it, okay? This is not stuff that really takes that much time when you think about it, okay? Beans go in water. That didn't take you any time. You drain the water. That didn't take any time. It's just an extra step, all right? You put it in the crock pot. You turn on the knob. It didn't take any time to watch it cook, okay? It just does it on its own. So we can still make this pretty effortless, but that's my little rant on beans. Yes, I think, should you eat it? Could you eat it? Yes, if you do it the right way. If you get your Eden organic beans or you do it yourself, yes, yes, yes. Beans, hell to the yes. All right? All right, guys, thanks for watching this video. I will talk to you soon.